Some familiar faces. Some familiar faces that I recognize. Hi, Scott. Hi, Mary Lee. A lot of NAIPC members that are on this call. So if you're a member, if you could just pop in the chat box, maybe a word that's your favorite part of being an NAIPC member. And for those of you that are guests, I am happy to have you here this morning. So we'll go ahead and get started. For those of you that are new to the call, welcome. Peter Klamkin and I have been friends for a long time. We go way back, and he is the moderator for today's call. So Peter is a 15-year veteran in the reverse mortgage business after a long career dedicated to helping seniors in the insurance industry. He has served as a speaker and invited guests in both businesses and as president of the Life Insurance Council. Peter has seen firsthand the benefits of aging in place through his daily work with seniors and personally through his own parents. He has helped numerous seniors be able to stay in their homes and afford the care they need and deserve. So thanks, Peter, for joining us and putting this panel together. So I will let you take it away.
Thank you, Tara. I appreciate it, and certainly appreciate the invitation to be the moderator for this. And also for all of you from the National Aging in Place Council. I know that you are dedicated folks like us in the reverse mortgage business or any other business having to do with seniors that, every day is always a challenge, but also has great joy and a feeling of accomplishment at the end of the day. So I appreciate everyone being here and being on the call and the webinar. Good afternoon to you folks east, and here I'm based in Dallas, east of me, and good morning to all of you who are west of me. So I think I have all my bases covered in terms of time frame. So when Tara and I first spoke about this and the idea behind the series, Hidden Gems for Aging in Place, two companies that we work with here at American Advisors Group, the reverse mortgage business, immediately came to mind. And I think I found both of them, and they found us in the same way, is that there's no such thing as bad free publicity. And I believe in Papa's case, and I think in Marci's case from Silver Bills, is that I think both of them had articles in the New York Times, if I'm not mistaken. And I happened to read the paper both days, and there were these articles about Ray's company Papa and Marci's company Silver Bills. And very much, hidden gems back then. But when you have a full page article or a good size article in the New York Times, it's hard to be a hidden gem. So in my company, in my case, we reached out to both Silver Bills and Papa. And, we've had this relationship for at least a year now with each of them, and feel very strongly about what they do. And hopefully you'll feel strongly about what they do as well to help your customers and your clients and those you work with every day who are aging in place and have a desire to remain in their home. And as we know, 95% of seniors at least want to stay in their home. It's where they've raised their family. It's where they feel safe. It's where their memories are. I can go on and on. And again, in my business, the reverse mortgage business, we see it every day, as you do as well. So with that, I thought the format that works is that I would start with Marci and have Marci introduce herself, and we'll talk about her company, Silver Bills. It's really unique, and yet along with that, it serves a niche to where you may have thought about it sometime in your career, but you didn't know what to do about it. And Marci, to her credit, knew what to do about it, and that's a very big deal. And I was thinking about this last night. I was doing some work, just mindless testing stuff, and Shark Tank was on, and I started thinking about the webinar today and with Marci and Ray. And if they were in front of me in Shark Tank, if I were wealthy enough to be a Shark Tank member, would I invest in either one of them or both of them? And the answer is yes. And we've seen there's proof in the pudding for the fact that both of them. Both companies have some, powerful backing behind them because they are each unique in their own way. And that's a very big deal, especially in a business of serving seniors, you want to fill every niche that you can. So with that, I wanted to start with Marci, have Marci introduce herself, and have her talk a little bit about what Silver Bills does, and more importantly, how she started it. And then we'll talk about how it relates to aging in place. So Marcy, first of all, please introduce yourself.
Thank you, Peter, and thank you, Tara, for having me and representing Silverbills at this webinar. I really appreciate the opportunity. So as Peter mentioned, I'm Marci Lobel-Esrig. I'm founder, CEO, and general counsel of Silverbills. I was a lawyer for the New York Mets baseball team, the parent company, when the Bernie Madoff scandal broke a couple of weeks after I started, and my company lost about $500 million in almost the entire 401k of the company. And I worked on that financial crime for 8 years as Associate General Counsel of Sterling. And I became an expert in financial exploitation. I really had a very, very unique window into the process, how these sophisticated individuals could have been built of so many millions of dollars by this criminal. At the same time, my elderly aunt was aging in her home and she was struggling with managing her bills. She told me she had to drive to the car dealer to drop off her check. And I did a lot of research into both of those areas, both financial exploitation and aging in place. And I learned about the overlap between financial exploitation and older adults in this country. There's a $1 billion annual older adult financial exploitation problem in this country. And it's often perpetrated because people need help managing their bills and paperwork. And they often invite untrustworthy individuals into their homes. And those individuals have the ability at that point to steal personal effects like jewelry or other valuables, or since they're sitting at tables with older adults helping them write checks, they're writing unauthorized checks. In fact, in my own community, a mom in my daughter's Girl Scout troop was just released from jail because she was supposedly helping an older adult in our community with this process, and she wrote checks to herself totaling tens of thousands of dollars over the course of years. So when I found out that there was no national trustworthy solution to this problem, I started Silverbills, and we are really revolutionizing household bills by combining a very robust proprietary software solution with a dedicated US-based account manager. And we are receiving, scrutinizing, storing, and ensuring that our clients' bills are paid correctly and on time. And computer use is optional on the part of our clients because they have this personal account manager who's using our software and monitored through very robust AI, as well as a lot of other monitoring and fraud prevention tools. And they can age in their homes and outsource this task when it's not done correctly, can really lead to catastrophic circumstances, as well as just the inability to age in one's home or the actual loss of one's home, like eviction, foreclosure. When it's not done correctly, we've seen a lot of evidence of termination of benefits like long-term care insurance, as well as a whole host of other insurance products. So by working with us, our clients throughout the country, and we're a national company, can do this with a professional at their side and just live in their homes without the stress of worrying, did I pay my water bill? Did I pay my cell phone bill? I wanted to make a donation to my religious institution. Did I do that? They will have a person. It's really like a professional assistant for bills and documents for older adults throughout the country. So that's kind of it in a nutshell, Peter.
So one of the things that, and I've used this example with Marcy before, is that I have a close friend of mine who lives near his mom, actually down the street from his mother in Florida. And his mother called him frantically and said, we need to go pay my electric bill right away. They are going to shut off my electricity. And can you come pick me up now? We need to go down to FPL, Florida Power and Light, pay the bill before they do at the end of the day. And I need a check because her son was also helping her manage her money. And the one thing he said to her right away was, Mom, you have to remember you're on auto pay. And so whoever you're talking to is committing fraud. We need to find out who that person is. We don't need to go to Florida Power and Light to pay a bill that you've already paid. And I have to think that, she's an educated woman. She was a chemist at a pharmaceutical company, and he's a smart guy too. And I'd like to think that, I actually hate to think that this kind of story goes on all the time.
It absolutely does. And it leads to this $1 billion annual crime figure. And it's largely underreported, to be quite honest. So that's a common scam. We often get calls from our clients, and we are in the trenches with our clients. So in your example, your friend's mom was very lucky to have her son. 25 to 30% of this demographic do not have adult children. So in that case, they're often victimized because they don't have, another set of eyes helping with this problem. Those are typical clients of ours. And increasingly, those adult children are unavailable, whether they're busy with their own, raising their families, or at work. We had a recent client sign up and she said, good luck reaching my kid. I want him on my contract. So if we have written authorization, we can speak to third parties like adult children, accountants, or attorneys. But when we asked her, would you like someone else to be authorized to interact with us? She said, good luck getting in touch with my son. I mean, not to fault the adult children, but they have very, very busy, stressful lives of their own. And we provide, like people outsource, their tax preparation to accountants, for example, or preparation of legal documents to attorneys. The concept here is outsource your bill management to Silverbills so that you can have time to do other things and have someone in the trenches with you. We got that exact call from one of our clients, and instead of sending the money to the power company, which was in fact a criminal, she called her Silverbills account manager. And within 10 seconds, we could determine that that was a scam. And we contacted the attorney general, who we have a close connection with, who confirmed that's a rampant scam throughout the country, but particularly in the Northeast. And the problem with it is the scam artists are really very psychologically astute, and they're constantly coming up with new ways to victimize older adults. And really everyone, not just older adults, but it happens a lot more with older adults. And so we need other tools in the toolbox to help individuals age in place securely without being subjected to these scams. And that's something I'm proud to say that we help with.
Marci, can you talk a bit about actually two things? One is how the process actually works. And then also, what have you done and what do you continue to do to build trust between yourself and your potential clients? Are you very much on referral basis? Are you very much, related to some organizations that they trust in general? You're asking a group that can be very skeptical and nervous about turning over their finances to someone. What have you done through Silverbills to build that kind of trust that you can do that?
Sure. So the first part of the question, the enrollment process. So typically we have a team, they're enrollment advisors at Silverbills. They typically go through, several conversations or email exchanges with clients, potential clients who have questions, answering those questions, and then providing them with a service agreement. It's a simple service agreement. And again, we meet our clients where they are from a technology perspective. We don't force anyone online. We don't press it. This is a demographic we found that is largely disenfranchised by all of these cultural references to online, Facebook, et cetera. And many of you have probably heard them say, I don't want to go online. I want to just live my life the way I've been living it all of these decades. And so we're fine with that. We provide them with business reply envelopes. They can transmit anything to us in the mail. We can send our service agreement in the mail with business reply envelopes. No technology adoption is necessary to benefit from our services, but if they want to, they can enroll, online. They can send an email with the document. Once they sign our service agreement, they're introduced to their Silverbills account manager. That's one person, as I mentioned, based in the US. It's not a call center, and they will always have that person as their point of contact. And that person will develop a relationship with the client. And in fact, in our team meeting this morning, we talked about our reviews, which we're a startup. And so that's something, the reputational issues are something that, obviously we face. But we form, our account managers form really significant relationships with clients, and they learn to trust them over time. So what happens is they provide a sample of each bill, for example, the water bill, the electric bill, whatever it is, once. And going forward, we get that directly through our software. The account manager provides all of that information to our back end to receive that directly. They also come up with a monthly budgeted spend amount that's benchmarked at the outset of a relationship. And each month the client is provided with a Silverbills account statement that's consolidated. So, and it shows budgeted spend versus actual spend for each category, water, electric, cell phone, et cetera, as well as a transaction history for everything that they've done. And again, if they want a third party to access that, like adult children, those individuals can log in, or the client can also at silverbills.com, and all historical information is in one place. So that's how the process works with enrolling and the ongoing relationship, and they can terminate at any time. There's no long-term contract required, although we have an over 90% client retention rate because people really value the service, and they form these close relationships. In terms of trust, yes, that is an issue. We've worked to build trust. First of all, we're not, and nothing against anyone on this call, we're not young Silicon Valley dudes with hoodies. We're everyone on the senior management team has decades of experience, including legal. We have 2 CPAs that are on the management team, operational, decades of experience, business development, and software engineering. So our, pretty robust professional history backs this company, including mine, and that's more than 2 decades as an attorney, licensed in multiple states. In addition, we were part of the AARP Innovation Lab, and we're part of the AARP Age Tech Collaborative. So in last year, AARP, which is the largest not-for-profit in the United States, invested in a pre-seed round in Silverbills, and that provides a lot of credibility to the brand and increases the trust factor as well. When we were working with AARP in their innovation lab, we did a 600-person study of Silverbills. We learned that the Better Business Bureau is very valued by this cohort as well as their adult children. We have and maintain an A+ rating with the Better Business Bureau, but once I heard that, I started networking with the Better Business Bureau, and now I'm proud to say that I'm on the board of directors of the Better Business Bureau. And we have a whole host of other organizations backing us, including our investors, one of whom is the Hearst Corporation, which dominates the media business in this country. We are part of the Hearst Lab. The Hearst Corporation has dedicated one component of their company to trying to rectify the gross imbalance of venture capital funding, of which more than 95% goes to male founders. The Hearst Lab specifically invests in female founders and supports the endeavors of female founders. And so we're backed by that organization, as well as benefit from a lot of their media expertise. We have a lot of other investors as well, like Allianz Life Insurance, Securian Financial, Generator Ventures, and SIA Ventures, which is a venture capital firm that invests exclusively in underrepresented founders. So, the trust issue is complicated, and it's not an overnight solution, but we've worked through the years to cultivate these relationships and the reputation of our brand. And I think we've gotten, to pretty established acceptance and significant heights in our trust factor.
A couple other things. I'm sure a lot of folks are wondering what's it cost. So we should address that.
Absolutely. So we actually have some municipal contracts, including with the New York City Department for the Aging and the County of Maui, as well as the City of Yonkers, and we have a few others in the pipeline. If individuals qualify for those programs, those municipalities actually pay for the cost. So theoretically, they can be free for individuals in those municipalities. And by the way, if anyone is interested in specifics of enrollment or cost, or whether they qualify for those programs, they can simply go to our web, silverbills.com, and there's a contact form. We will reach out to you, or call our 800 number, which is 866-653-4427. We will go over those details with anyone regarding whether they are eligible for those free programs. There are other programs, depending on our partners, that also provide discounts. So we have some offers going on right now, for example, with subscribers to the Houston Chronicle. And so it depends, is the answer. But typically the services cost between $50 and $99 per month. And again, it's a conversation with our enrollment team, and they will go over all of the potential discounts, potential free service, or the actual cost for individuals.
Would it be worth the while of folks on this call, spread around the country, working with departments of aging to reach out to them and ask about them funding your services?
Absolutely. And if anyone has those contacts and they're interested, financial management is, in my opinion, really critical to aging in place. I mean, if someone's water bill is not getting paid and they lose their water, they're calling 911, they're potentially undergoing guardianship proceedings, and we can solve those problems. We really can be the foundation for individuals aging in place. So there is a study by the Brookdale Center for Healthy Aging specifically on this issue. And what it found is that when local governments pay for the services of financial management, which is what we're doing, it saves them upwards of $60,000 a year, because the alternatives are very expensive. It could be Medicaid institutionalization, et cetera. So, by paying for silver bills, there's an evidence-based research study that it shows savings for local municipalities, as well as a whole host of other stakeholders, including social service organizations. So yes, absolutely. If people know of municipalities that are interested in providing our service, please feel free to contact me directly, and I'll put my contact information in the chat for anyone with any potential relationships in those arenas.
Sure. And they can always go to your website, silverbills.com.
Correct.
And just a couple of quick things before we move over to Ray. And that is that, I was on the radio here in Dallas over the weekend and talking to reverse mortgage potential buyers and customers and borrowers. I tell a story because a lot of this is always personal. In my case, my father went through his credit cards in a very big way before he admitted to his children that he had run out of money. And unfortunately, in his case, he had paid for his house in cash and took out a reverse mortgage, and it changed his life and mine as well. But are you seeing that as just a continually growing problem where folks are doing everything that they can to not to admit that they have a problem?
I think actually, Peter, it's a really fascinating question. And I think it really goes to the cultural nuances of this country. And I think it really varies by country. There is, for some reason, a big emphasis on the privacy of finances in people's lives. And I think that leads to a whole host of issues for Americans. We're not taught financial responsibility or financial management in school in any way. And it's a hush-hush private conversation that often even families don't address.
Yeah.
I'm sure people can, as you mentioned in your own family, your father didn't want to discuss this with you. We're taught somehow through cultural references that these are issues to be handled personally, individually, and they're all really kept under wraps by a lot of individuals. There's a lot of embarrassment and shame regarding finances. And I think it leads to a whole host of complicated outcomes that are often negative. And we are trying to provide outlines to people of what their financial lives look like, what they're spending. There are a lot of financial professionals that focus on investments and, the income side, but not a lot of attention to expenses. And that's what we're doing through our software and our account managers on a monthly basis. We're helping people really bring out into the open what they're spending money on in a responsible way. They're leading that process, but we're helping them with the tools that we have. And I think it's complicated, and we have to work, in my opinion, to change it, because when people are not paying attention to their financial well-being and their financial life, it's leading to some devastating consequences. And often it's too late. You mentioned your father, but when someone forgets, for example, to pay their long-term care insurance premium and they're 80 or 90 years old, that's too late. Whereas when you see that in a statement, and when professionals who are helping you know when those annual premiums or whatever they are, monthly premiums are due, and just bringing light to that and what that's going to cost. I mean, beyond just forgetting to pay it, or, it being in a pile of papers while you're admitted to a hospital or something and no one got to that piece of paper. What if you don't have the money to pay it? When you can see what your anticipated expenses are in a very robust way through our software, I think it's really helpful for many individuals.
Absolutely. And lastly, I think really what that is what you're talking about. And again, for the audience today, is that we're talking about the difference between perhaps government pay and private pay for folks for health. And also most importantly is that we're talking about the difference between perhaps staying in your home and not staying in your home. And we know, again, 95% or so of seniors want to age in place, yet a lot of them may not be working financially towards that goal. And that's the shame of the whole thing. And that's why what you do, I'm hopeful is not going to be a hidden gem, after this call. So I'm sure I speak for a lot of folks here that, what you're doing is providing a service, and it's not a person on this call that doesn't have their own story, like my dad, that they've come across their own family members or their own clients that this has been a major issue. So I hope that your phone is ringing off the hook, after this. We'll get to questions at the end. I think Tara's going to open it up, but there is one that just did open up. Can you just cover price again one more time, please?
Sure. So it depends on whether an individual is eligible for one of the free programs, and those exist in New York City, the County of Maui, Hawaii, and the City of Yonkers. That if the individual goes through the process to be qualified through one of those municipalities, it is free for those clients, completely free. For other individuals, we have a variety of partnerships. Many of them are listed on our website, including Houston Chronicle subscribers as of today. And for other individuals, the cost ranges from approximately $50 to $99 per month. And in order to receive the specific price, it requires a conversation with one of our enrollment advisors. So a simple call to our 800 number or an email exchange, we can provide the specifics on pricing, but that is the range.
Thank you, Marci. I hope you can hang around until the end after Ray and take some questions as well. Okay.
Absolutely. Thank you, Peter.
So with that, I want to introduce Ray Holmgren. Ray works for papa.com, and we'll have Ray talk a little bit about his background, but also, again, as I said earlier, I was just reading the New York Times one day, and there's a big article, which is free advertising for Papa. And then fortunately, I was living in Miami at the time, and Papa's based in Miami. And I thought, boy, this would be great. I can just drive downtown Miami and go see him. Well, there was also a time of COVID too. So that didn't happen. And I've never met the guys that Ray works with, but we've had loads of conversations. And then Ray actually and I did meet in person over great Tex-Mex here in Dallas, fortunately. So with that, I'll introduce Ray. Ray, you want to talk about your background, talk a bit about what Papa does, and then we'll just discuss that from there. How's that?
I think that sounds perfect. Thank you so much, Peter. Appreciate the invitation to be a guest on this webinar today. And thank you, Tara and NAIPC for including Papa. I'm really excited to share with you all what we do. I'm the director of partnerships, so I work with organizations like Humana and Blue Cross and AAG to expand our reach to try to serve as many individuals who are aging in place as we can. Papa came based off an idea from our CEO and co-founder, Andrew Parker, where at the time he was a traveling sales representative and his grandfather was actually suffering from onset dementia. And so he got this idea of, what if I hired a college student to hang out with my grandfather, provide companionship, play board games with him, take him for walks, help him feed his dog, help him lift heavy boxes, assist with the dishes. And so funny enough, he actually posted an ad on Facebook and got about 40 college students in the Miami area who were intrigued by and wanting to spend time with his grandfather. And his grandfather absolutely loved the service. So Andrew decided to quit his job, name the company Papa, because that was the affectionate name that he had for his grandfather. And as Andrew likes to say, we've been on a rocket ship to the moon ever since. We were founded in 2017. We're partnered with over 60 organizations today across Medicare, Medicaid, commercial space. I see Linda over there with the Mutual of Omaha background. Mutual of Omaha is one of our partners today in the med sup space. But what we offer is we have a nationwide network of over 25,000 family helpers that we call Papa Pals. And these Papa Pals, again, are young, enthusiastic adults where they're going to be providing not only a companionship, but assistance in the home to families and their loved ones, in particular seniors. And so we know that the research says that, that to Peter's point, 95% of seniors prefer to age in home. They don't want to transition to an assisted living facility or a nursing home anymore. They want to age and spend their remaining years in their home. So our Papa Pals are able to provide that assistance and care in the home. And so we know what the research as well says that for individuals who are senior and they have unmet social needs like lack of companionship, isolation, loneliness, lack of transportation, lack of financial education, those are things that can contribute negatively to that individual's mental and physical health. So it's our mission at Papa is not only provide companionship to seniors, but make sure that we're giving them that level of assistance where they can live healthy lives. And Peter, I'm happy to talk about a research study with Humana that we just released in June and our ability to improve loneliness specifically.
Absolutely. Go ahead.
But yeah, so we actually released a study with Humana that was released in June, and we basically had two cohorts of participants. One cohort of 750 individuals received Papa as a service. The other cohort just received some documentation on tips and tricks on how to manage your mental and physical health. At the conclusion of the study, 69% of those seniors saw an improvement in their loneliness scores. In addition to that, 39% of those seniors no longer considered themselves lonely thanks to their Papa Pal. In addition to that, we also monitored their mental and physical health, and we had a 4 times improvement in improving those mental and physical health measurements compared to the control group. So there's a lot of proof in the services that our Papa Pals are able to provide. So I'll talk about the types of service that we provide. There's a broad spectrum of what our Papa Pals can offer. Our Papa Pals are non-clinical, so they're not going to provide that traditional home care assistance or those activities of daily living. So they won't go into an individual's home and assist with bathing and changing diapers and things like that and providing medication. But they will provide assistance in the home. So everything from moving heavy boxes to helping with the dishes, meal prep, cleaning, going for walks in the park. Our Papa Pals can also go run errands on behalf of the individual. So whether that's trips to the grocery store, picking up dry cleaning, going to the pharmacy and picking up and dropping off their medication. And then anything that the sponsoring entity wants, that Papa Pal to provide on their behalf. So our Papa Pals are going into an individual's home and we're reminding them to take their medication. We're reminding them to schedule their annual wellness visit with their primary care physician. We're reminding them to complete their HRAs. So there's a lot of research that we've been able to produce on how we're able to reduce healthcare spend. We're also able to improve loneliness, improve mental health, as well as improve some of those financials for our health plan sponsors.
So to be clear, you work in conjunction with home care agencies. You don't compete against home care agencies. And that's a very big distinction.
Exactly. Yeah, we're an augmentation or a supplementation to home care agencies. So we understand that individuals, again, they want to age in place. And for those caregivers that are taking care of an aging loved one, we're helping them to give peace of mind that they have someone at their disposal that can provide assistance. So we're working with several employers today, like for example, Anthem, 63,000 employees, has PAPA as an employee benefit. So we're working with those employees and providing these services to their aging loved ones to get that extra support. So I'll give a personal example. I receive PAPA as an employee benefit. My grandmother lives in Daytona, and unfortunately, she's going through chemotherapy right now. And thankfully, because of the pandemic, my dad lives in Atlanta, who's her next closest caregiver. And because of the pandemic and being able to work from home, he's been able to go out to Daytona once a month and help her with her infusion treatments and help her around the house. But when he's back in Atlanta, she also has a PAPA pal at her disposal to come over to the house, drive her to her infusion appointments and be there with her when she's sitting there for 2 hours, help out with prepping meals, going to the grocery store when she's feeling lethargic, and someone who can just provide her that companionship.
So a couple of quick questions, Ray. One is same question I asked Marcy, because it always comes up, is what's it cost? And secondly, is that what I just heard you say, I found fascinating. That is about a year or so ago, you had about 7,000 pals out there, and now you're telling me that there are 25,000. What did you do to increase that number so vastly? And what's a typical applicant for a job to be a PAPA pal?
Yeah, so I'll start with your question about pricing. Most of the individuals we work with today are receiving this service for free from their insurance plan. So most of our partnerships were added as a supplemental benefit through Medicare Advantage. Individuals are also receiving this through their Medicaid plan. But anyone can go to our website, papa.co.co, and and purchase the service for themselves. It kind of varies on location, but the average cost is about $25 an hour.
Okay.
To answer your question about our recruitment process, a lot of it has honestly just been grassroots and posting ads on Facebook and Google ads. All of our PAPA pals are similar to an Uber or a Lyft, where they're 1099 contracted employees. Right now, we're receiving about 20 to 25,000 applicants a month, and we're only accepting about 10% of applicants, because we do have a highly extensive extensive vetting process, because we want to make sure that we're putting the right individual, the right PAPA pal in front of these members and individuals to make sure that they have a 5-star experience. So each applicant has to go through an application, a personality assessment. We want to make sure the person's outgoing, they're enthusiastic, they're empathetic. We do phone interviews. Each individual has to have a vehicle, can't be older than 10 years old. We run the VIN number. We do make sure they have a clean driving record, full criminal background check. And then once they check all the boxes, we run them through about 6 hours of orientation and training, because we understand that pals may come across an individual who has onset dementia or Alzheimer's, or he's suffering from any different maladies. So we're going to educate on our pals on why an individual may be behaving a certain way, and provide them with the tools and strategies on how to engage with that individual. But more importantly, how do we connect that individual to services that they need? So we often will have a pal come into a senior's home where, they don't have much income. They might be a dual eligible member on Medicare and Medicaid. And we go into that individual's home and we see that there's no food in their refrigerator. But we understand that PAL knows that this individual, as part of their benefit from Humana, for example, they have access to a local food bank. So we'll work with that individual and route them and refer them to that local food bank, and also notify the insurance carrier of the certain circumstance, so they're aware of it as well.
And obviously it just crossed my mind, probably like other people here, that, if you could take your vetting process and have Uber do the same thing for their drivers, they'd be in a much better position.
Absolutely. I think we've all had our fair share of sketchy drivers here and there.
Yeah, I'm sure. And one thing that I also found fascinating about PAPA is that you have a lot of college students that might be psychology majors, sociology majors, gerontology majors, who have found themselves to do that. And here's the question right here. Do you collaborate with academic student internships, especially nursing students?
We do, yeah, and that's part of how we're growing our recruitment efforts today, is making these strategic relationships with universities and nursing schools and others to try to grow. And our CEO in the past and our founding, where Papa Pal's reached a certain threshold of hours, he was willing to write a letter of recommendation for medical school for some of our Papa Pals. So we're all about partnering with those universities. We actually have a through our relationship with Humana, we're partnered with the University of Houston, doing something very similar where we're partnered with them to expand our recruitment efforts.
I appreciate that. It's such a great idea to have, when so many places, if I were a fast food server here in my town here in Texas, I could get 5 jobs by the end of lunchtime. And yet, you have the opposite. You have so many people applying for jobs. That's it's a huge statement about what Papa does and your reputation done in a very relatively short period of time. So it's incredible.
Yeah, thank you. And I think that's part of our appeal, is even if someone's interested in being they want the flexibility of being that, gig economy worker where they can come and go as they please. But I think what is unique about us is that they're sharing our mission of taking care of seniors, and they want to do more than just, pick up and drop off McDonald's for 8 hours a day. They want to be able to give back to their community and truly help individuals live independent lives.
That's great. So we have about 15 minutes left. I think, Tara, if you want to open it up for questions, does that make sense?
Sure, that's great. If anyone wants to unmute themselves, if they have a comment or a question, now is the time. If you don't want to unmute, you can type it in the chat box, and we'll make sure to get your question addressed. Anyone? Yes, Scott, hi there.
So to all of you, for Peter for hosting us, and for Marci and Ray, thanks very much for being here. So I'm chair of the National Aging in Place Council. And man, you guys answered all the questions that I would have quickly gone to. So thank you very much. And I think, there's a message here, which is our message too, around collaboration. And that's clearly a big part of how both your companies have been successful. So, and I think what it says is that we need to step away from the old models. These are new models that people clearly, the market is ready for, and doing work in new ways, in novel, outside the box thinking is really revolutionizing. And that to me is just exciting to see. Obviously the service that you're providing at the other end, but also that people are willing to look at new ways of working. That's a huge barrier that clearly you have found ways to break through very quickly. So thank you both for being here.
And I appreciate your comments about the guests today. And it's again, for the theme being hidden gems, you hate to admit that you're a hidden gem when you spend a fortune on advertising and marketing and hiring people. But certainly this is one of the things that helps get the word out. And if all of you would spread in your communities that these are two organizations that have the same purpose and goals in mind that you do, then that would be very helpful to all of us. And then Ray just had this question that he can address, certainly talking, is that do you get the same pal all the time? And Ray, do you want to address that?
Yeah, I sure can. So over the course of a given year, an individual will have a constellation of about 3 to 5 pals that will provide them with services. And then that individual can designate one or multiple favorite pals that'll be scheduled with them on a more regular cadence. So we do have a curated algorithm that will pair individuals with a pal based on common traits. So an example that we love to use is one of our earliest members. His name is Sam, who came to us through our relationship with Humana in Florida. Sam was actually a longtime retiree of Disney, and his favorite pal is Maria, who's actually currently a Disney princess in Orlando. So the algorithm paired them up based on those traits. And yeah, so it's a really unique experience that we're providing for individuals.
And, maybe you should use her in your advertising, that we actually have a Disney princess.
Well, I don't think we want to set expectations that everyone's going to get a Disney princess as their pal. So,
and one thing I wanted to go back to Marcy about, if I may, and that is that, let's say that I have a child in college who needs the same kind of financial help that my parents do. Does that work for Silver Bills?
Yes, actually, it's been really interesting since we closed our venture capital fundraising round at the end of March, and we've started to really spend on advertising and marketing. Increasingly, people who are inquiring are younger individuals. I often say we do not discriminate based on youth. So although the services was designed primarily with older adults in mind, we help individuals of all ages throughout the United States. And I think what's interesting about the younger individuals is, I don't know about you, but I don't want another app on my phone to have to do things. Like I actually would love to have Silver Bills. Someone on the other end of the phone, a professional who I could outsource whatever it is to. And younger individuals, I think, increasingly understand the value of their own time and how expensive one's own time is, and to be able to outsource this to a professional is something that they understand as well. So yes, we do have people of all ages who are using Silver Bills.
Thank you. And again, another question that just came up for Ray, is there a limit as to how much someone can have someone come by?
No, there's no limit necessarily. If an individual is receiving this from their health insurance plan, like Anthem as a part of a Medicare Advantage supplemental benefit, that insurer will allocate a bucket of hours that that member has access to over the course of the year. And then if they exceed that bucket, they can pay out of pocket. But outside of that, there's no limit to how many hours can be used.
And one other question from me is that, both of you have been involved, and your companies have certainly been involved in terms of raising capital as you've been growing. What's your discussion like with folks on the other side in terms of where they see the future of aging in place? In other words, do they see it in terms of how there's like almost no end in sight for the amount of seniors that are turning 65 every day, and what the market is? Certainly you've had to demonstrate through numbers what your future is based on demographics.
So, the statistics show that currently there are approximately 56 million 65 and over in this country. It's going to about 80 million in the next few decades. So, the numbers are there. When you talk about 25 to 30% have no adult children, increasingly investors are focusing on this space, in my opinion, although it's still woefully inadequate. In 2017, AARP sponsored an innovation competition in Silicon Valley. And I think that was kind of like the beginning of this age tech revolution and focus. And investors are slowly catching on that although most of them are investing in services for younger individuals, this is, to me, a very, very exciting demographic, both in terms of the growth potential, but in terms of the large bulk of the wealth of this population is held by this demographic primarily. So I think it's slowly getting across, although it is a very special, unique marketing challenge, I think. So that is, I think, creating some anxiety on the part of investors. I do think that they are starting to think about it in a more serious way.
And I'll throw this in for the reverse mortgage people on this call also know that there's $8 trillion out there right now in home equity for seniors touched at all. So Ray, did you want to answer as well?
Yeah, I think, most of the conversations that I engage in are on the healthcare side, but I think the sense that I'm getting across the board is that care is transitioning to the home. And I think a lot of that has been exacerbated by the pandemic, where you're seeing a massive growth in telemedicine, new technology companies. And I believe I read an article about a month ago that said that, even in President Joe Biden's $1 trillion infrastructure plan, that there's about $400 billion that's trying to be allocated to addressing the caregiver issue that we're seeing in the United States today, and how do we support more seniors in the home. I had a conversation with a large health system in Texas a couple of weeks ago where, 5 out of their 7 initiatives is transitioning their services from the acute setting into the home. So I think across the board, we're seeing this shift on healthcare, specifically on providing assistance to individuals within their home versus getting them to come to the actual medical facility. So I think it's here to stay.
No doubt. And Ray, a question came in terms of what med supplement companies you work with, Medicare supplement companies you work with.
Today, our one partner is Mutual of Omaha, but we're in discussions with our other, Medicare Advantage partners, as well as expanding into the med sub space.
Okay, thanks. Any other questions from anybody? Terry, did you want to say anything?
No, I just thank you so much for joining us today. It was great information. I love learning more about these companies. And this is one of our most popular series, these hidden gems. We are always finding these great resources to add to our little toolkit to take care of seniors. So if there are no other questions, I'll say thank you to everyone. Just a few upcoming events that we have tomorrow. I am running an informational session for those of you interested in joining us at NAIPC. We also have a new member orientation on September 15th. And then on September 22nd, we are talking about how to get speaking gigs. So we have an expert coach that's going to talk about getting speaking gigs. So thanks everyone for joining us. You'll get a recording of the session. And it will also be uploaded to our YouTube channel that you can share with anyone at any time. So thanks everyone. Thanks for joining us today. Thank you, Marcy. Thank you, Ray. Thanks, Peter.
You bet. My pleasure.
Thanks, everybody.
Thank you, Terry.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, Peter. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much.